Welcome back to the shop. I'm Jeff from Today's Craftsman, and I'm joined with Erik, or joined by Erik Delaney from Colonial Saw. And Colonial is not getting into selling edgebanders, but in a previous life, Erik dealt with all types of woodworking machinery. So we thought that we would use that knowledge and get a little rundown on the edgebander today.
Yeah, let's do some Edgebander 101 for the folks that aren't familiar with edgebanders.
Yeah, maybe we can get you into a $50,000 machine, but well worth it. So we have this heating up here. We're gonna actually edge band some stuff here for a different video, but.
So you've done some videos before. I've watched it on the channel, of course, but what most people don't realize is the impact that an edgebander can have on a business. And again, Colonial Saw is not into the edge banding market. We're not gonna be picking up an edge banding line, but after you cut something, you edge band it and then you bore it, hence cut, band, bore. The edge bander plays a critical role when you get into manufacturing, especially as you're getting into professional or work, frameless work, 32 millimeter system, European style cabinets. So I think it'd be great. Let's walk the viewers through and we can talk about best practices. So in-feed table is where you hold the actual edge banding. Most customers think of edge banders as, getting out an iron and you're using pre-glued. This is a whole different world. Like, this is a real industrial, commercialized edge bander. But edge banders are still finicky. They're still the most finesse, the most problematic machine in the shop. And when I got eyes on this machine just 5 minutes ago, the one thing you do, Jeff, great, is you keep your shop clean. More importantly, you keep the edge bander clean. So it's
actually dustier out here than it is on the inside.
Yeah, so as we come around and we look inside, one will go through the stations on the machine, but if you notice, we're not seeing buildup. You're gonna get some static from running PVC on melamine. That's what this is. This is either PVC, ABS, polypropylene. It's some type of plastic material. But especially in winter months when we don't have humidity, that static buildup, it's a lot harder for the dust collection to be able to pull up all your trimming. So you'll see some residual, but as you look through this machine, again, there's some static buildup here that the dust can't get. This is clean, so kudos.
Thanks.
You're taking care of that $50,000 investment.
Yes. Well. The bank owns this right now.
Yeah, you want to keep it running so you can make money, because when the edge bander goes down, you don't want to revert back to the iron,
right,
where you're having to iron on and trim it by hand. But as we go through this machine, of course, we talked about the in-feed table in a minute. Here's your in-feed fence. And I'm curious, Jeff, on how you set up. Most shops that I've been in my career, the edge banding can be 0.5 mil, 1 mil, 2 mil. This edge bander probably goes up to 3 millimeter.
We can do up to 5 millimeter strips in this.
Okay. So when you put on edge banding, how do you adjust your fence?
My workflow is, we take the digital calipers. We're going to measure here in millimeters our edge banding in a couple spots. So I'm getting 1.03, 1.02, 1.04. So we're just going to split the difference on there, 1.03. And it's not that fine of an adjustment, so we're going to unlock our fence. We have 2 locks here and adjust this to take off the full thickness. So that's 1.0. 1.03, and we can lock these down just sort of finger tight. And because we're running a panel saw, we're taking the full amount off, so we're not doing any math. If you're like running a CNC, you can make your pieces slightly undersized, so make them a 1/2 mil undersized, take off a 1/2 mil here, and then add 1 mil.
So that's how 95% of shops work, is they cut the size, they pre-mill off what they put on, which makes it a whole lot easier when you're designing and building. But the truth is you actually have to worry about chip load.
Yep.
So to get the most longevity, because you're generally running these 2 pre-mill cutters, you have to make sure the right chip load, just like you have with sawdust, is coming off the edge bander to extend the life. So be prepared that your pre-mill might prematurely wear out quicker.
Right.
But having to not worry about doing the math all the time and making sure when the boxes go together, they're perfect, That's why everybody does that.
Yeah, and pre-milling, maybe give like a 10-second explanation for people that don't know what that is.
So it's hard to see from this side, and hopefully the camera can at least show these. You have these two yellow stickers. That's because you have two shaper spindles. So the Germans call it Phrase F, which is pre-milling. Think of them as two big router spindles or two big shaper spindles. So as the panel is coming through, this is going to clean up that edge. So whether you have parts that have been cut and sat overnight and then you have edge swelling, whether you don't have scoring and you're getting chip out on your panels, this will come through, and if you're taking a millimeter off, it's going to clean up that edge. More importantly than the edge is that panels also, depending if, as you're cutting, you might not be perfectly perpendicular. So not only is it about the edge on the surfaces, both the top and the bottom surface, we want to make sure that we're cutting 90 degrees. Because on an edge bander, the most critical thing besides cleanliness is maintaining the zero line. So these track pads, I gotta be careful, the glue pot is heating up, which you're gonna get to in a minute. These track pads are what hold the part, so that as the panel is going through the machine, you adjust the pre-mill, the glue pot, the contact rollers, the end trimming to this zero line is what they call it in the edge banding industry, because that's one continuous line. So you wanna make sure that that is continuous. The pre-mill, not only, like I said, gives you the advantage of perfectly chip-free cuts, swelling, and then also perpendicular. It helps set up the rest of the machine because you have copy shoes and wheels along the rest. So you need perfect cuts, not just aesthetically perfect, but actual geometry.
Right.
As you come through your in feed, your glue pot's the next spot. Oh, it's already screwed down. You can't feel it on camera, but you can definitely feel it.
Some heat coming off of it.
Coming off. There's your glue pot. They're generally Teflon coated. They're pellets that you have to add in. They get heated up. And the glue pot has a glue nozzle. And that's what's sitting on the back side. So as the panel's coming through, most people think that the panel is hitting the actual glue roller. It doesn't. It's actually wicking away. If the panel hits the glue roller, you're going to do damage to the roller, and you're not going to be able to control the amount of glue that's being applied onto your panel. So if you hit that glue roller, it's generally a knurled roller. If you constantly hit that, you're going to get a wear spot. The glue will be thicker. Now you're putting excess glue onto your panel. Of course, as the panel comes through, the glue gets applied to the edge of your panel. Now you have your pressure zone, your main primary contact roller and your two subsequent rollers. Bigger machines will have additional rollers for thicker material so that you can put additional pressure on as the glue is curing. On the actual glue roller, you don't want to have squeeze out. That's really what it comes down to. So, and as well, since these rollers are putting pressure on, again, emphasis back on the pre-mill, so that if we're not perfectly square, if that roller is putting pressure on the tape, we're not going to get a proper bond.
Right.
Glue pot, that's something that you have to clean out. You saw me take off the lid. We call it the popsicle method in the industry. So depending on how much you use it, if you're using the glue pot or the edge bander every day, once a week, you stick a stick in. As the edge bander cools down, the stick's dry in it, and you treat it like an actual popsicle. So that on a Monday morning, you turn on the edge bander, it starts to heat up, you pull the whole thing out, and it's a stick with a big wad of glue. And then, of course, you backfill and put new ones in, because the actual the glue for the edge bander, that'll discolor over time. There's fillers inside the edge banding. Those will burn.
Yeah, you could see ours is definitely, because we don't run this, this doesn't get run every day this isn't an 8-hour-a-day machine. This is periodic, so.
Going through the machines, it's been a while since I've talked about edgebander, so I might have to collect my thoughts or think for a minute as I go through. We talked about the pressure zone, and step in, Jeff, if I miss something. This is your machine. Next is end trimming. So panel comes through, we clean up the edge, we apply glue. Where the tape comes in, you have your pressure zone, putting the tape onto the actual panel. There's a guillotine here, which will rough cut. The guillotine will oversize that panel, so that as that panel comes through, your next station, which you might have to come over on this side to actually see it, you now have end trimming. So now you have a saw blade end trimming both front and back that we're indexing. And on that, it moves up and down. There's a THK guideway for your controlled movement so that as the panel comes through, it indexes. Again, that's why we need perfectly square parts. So if you're going to get into edge banding, generally you're doing frameless style work, you need perfectly square parts. So now I'm going to put my Streebig sales hat on and say, okay, if you want to stick a part into this edge bander, you need not just straight parts, but perfectly square parts. Otherwise, as that panel comes through and indexes off the end of the panel, if you're not at 90 degrees, your end trimming is going to be impacted.
Yep.
And that'll be devastating, because then the whole purpose of buying a $50,000 edge bander is as parts are coming off, you don't want to have to do any touch-up or rework. And again, that's the reason for pre-mill. If you buy an edge bander, you've heard me say pre-mill 10 times already, I'm going to say it 10 more times, you need pre-mill for your edge bander. Don't buy it without. Whether you have a table saw, a sliding table saw, a Streebig, or even a CNC, pre-mill is an essential feature. Don't let somebody talk you out of it. It's a must. As the panel comes through, you have end trimming. Next station is your top and bottom trimming. So now as the panels come through, we rough cut it. We have final end trimming because we're indexing off the end of the panel. Now as the panel comes through, we have these copy wheels, both top and bottom here. And these follow the panel. Jeff, you measure the edge banding. How often do you measure the panels as you feed them through?
So before we run a piece, we always use the calipers, measure the thickness, and we set the beam height based on the thickness of the material.
Because 3/4 inch material isn't 3/4 inch.
Right.
And there's so much load or deflection that's built in to allow for that. So it allows a little bit of variance, but you don't have unlimited amount of float built into each station. So you want to get that close. After your top and bottom trimming, your next station is called corner rounding. On thin tape, it's not a big deal, but as you do your edge banding, you sequence it. You don't do one side A, side B, side C, side D. How do you edge band, Jeff?
Typically I do the sides and then the top and bottom.
Yeah, so
For a door, you know.
For those watching, you don't edge band 1, 2, 3. You edge band 1, 3, 2, 4. And the reason for that is, one, as you go to look at the door, you're going to see the seams. So it's an aesthetic, it's a visual component. But two, it's for the corner rounding station. Because once you get to 1 millimeter, if you're putting a radius, right, that's what the top and bottom trimming does. We don't always want it flush. On veneer, sure, you want it flush, maybe you're going to sand it. But if you're doing melamine or laminate and you're putting a plastic edge on, plastic gets sharp as you do your trimming. You want to break that edge. So this will have a 1 millimeter or 2 millimeter radius for your top and bottom trimming. As that part comes through, you put a radius where those two edges meet, a radius, and you're now going to have a lip or a corner, hence the corner rounding station. So this corner rounding station will eliminate that little lip. And then, of course, you invested in a nice machine with a lot of capacity. You then have 3 additional stations. So you now have radius scraping, so that as you scrape plastic, no different than when you scrape your fingernail, it discolors. Well, you also, when you cut and machine, you have tool marks. The top and the bottom, you're going to have tool marks from your top and bottom trimming. The scraper is going to take 1/10 of a millimeter. For those on camera, that's a little bit thicker than a dollar bill. That's just going to take a 1 millimeter, a 0.1 mil scraping off so that you get rid of your tool marks. But between the top and bottom trimming and your scraping, you now have discoloration, especially on darker colors. And we'll get to that in a second. This also has flat scraping, or what they call glue joint scraping. If you don't have your glue pot set up correctly and you have too much glue, it's going to be scraping the glue squeeze out. If you're using that to scrape glue, you have to set up your glue pot better, or your glue roller better. The real reason is what we just showed on camera a minute ago. Edge banding can be 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. If you have 1 millimeter radius tooling and your edge banding is 1.2 millimeter radius, you're going to have a high spot. That's where the flat scrapers are really nice, because on that plastic, you're going to have a little bit of a lip that comes through, it hits that high spot, and now it's truly flush. So now with the radius scraping and your flat scraping, you've removed your tool marks. You know your panel is perfectly flush with the edge banding. Then lastly, you come to the buffing wheels. And again, when I feel these are pretty clean. You go into a lot of shops in my career, there's glue all over them. Most people think buffing is to remove glue. No, the only time you use buffing is on PVC ABS. It shouldn't be used on wood. It's there to bring back the sheen back into your edge banding. And if there's glue on it, all you're going to do is turn on those buffing wheels. They're going to spin, the glue's going to get warm, and you're just going to
spread it everywhere.
Spread glue everywhere. And then you're into a cleaning nightmare. So Edgebander 101, that's a lot of stations. We covered that pretty quick. Anything you want to add to that, Jeff?
So this machine has spray in the front of the machine and the back of the machine. So we have an anti-stick spray in the front. So after it pre-mills, it sprays the top and the bottom of the panel with an anti-stick solution. So it helps that glue from actually sticking to the faces.
It's called a pre-release agent. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then right here, before we hit the flat scraping, it sprays like a cleaning solution. So that helps loosen up anything that's stuck, and then gives like a little bit of lubrication to the buffers.
Yep.
So we get an even better finish on the edges there.
The whole purpose of making a sizable investment in Edgebander is you don't want to have to touch up parts. As parts come off an Edgebander, if you're touching them or reworking them, you either bought the wrong Edgebander or you have the wrong operator. Mm-hmm. And looking at the condition of this machine, how clean it is, you guys are taking a good job, and the machine will last a long time. But no, good work on that, and hopefully that's beneficial for the viewers today.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We're going to run some parts. Maybe we'll stitch some of that in. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Definitely a crash course in the Edgebander. Appreciate Erik giving us the lesson. Hopefully you enjoyed. We'll talk to you next week.
Take care.